Mature and more intense video games tend to be my favorite. There's something exhilarating about the brutality of it all. But every now and then, a break from all the shooting, slashing, exploding, and cursing is much needed. I figured a cute, story-rich, visual novel game about friendship and youth would be just a break I needed. Surely this easy-to-follow, fun summer adventure would be nothing more than a relaxing, calm, light-hearted experience. Huge shout out and thanks to the sponsor of today's video, Hiding Spot Games, the devs of this lovely game. They provided me with a game code for an almost final build of the game a whole month before its release so that I could give y'all my honest thoughts on it. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Hiding Spot Games. Normally, this is where I would warn you about spoilers and tell you to skip to a timestamp if you wish to experience the story for yourself. However, given the nature of the game and how well the story is told, I just couldn't bring myself to spoil everything for the sake of discussing it. I will give a big picture overview of the story and plot, and discuss some of the early elements that set up the journey the player will embark on. Worry not, any specifics I discuss are all given to the player in the opening minutes of the game. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get to story and plot. Welcome to the lovely world of Beacon Pines, a small and quiet town in the middle of nowhere, home to a variety of very interesting residents and our protagonist, Luca. We learn early on that Luca's father passed away 6 years ago and that his mom went missing 4 months ago. Not even 5 minutes into the game and our protagonist is already an orphan. What is this, a shonen anime? We meet some of the town's residents, like Luca's best friend Rollo, Luca's grandma, the town's mayor, some of the other kids, and lots of other unique characters that will become relevant as the story goes on. Luca and Rollo are just enjoying their summer days and being kids. All pretty normal stuff, at least until, well, some strange things start to happen around town. There is clearly something fishy going on with the town's founding family, the Valentines, and a new agricultural group in town called Perennial Harvest. As 12-year-olds do, Luca and Rollo decide to have themselves a grand adventure by uncovering the town's secrets. Little did they know that what they would find would be beyond their wildest imagination. As the player continues to dive deeper into the game, the seemingly lighthearted tale turns into a progressively more intense story with all manner of plot twists and surprises. By the time I reached the end, I was genuinely invested in the characters and the overall story that was being told. The plot twists were pretty wild. I won't spoil any of them, but I will admit that I didn't even remotely anticipate a lot of what happens towards the end of the story. The narrative does a great job of building tension early on, leaving the player with lots of questions. It does an even better job at slowly but surely unraveling the events and providing answers to the questions it created in the first place. To be completely honest, I've never really cared much for visual novel games. I always thought they were kind of boring and slow. You can imagine my surprise when Beacon Pines showed me that this genre can tell a powerful and engaging story without needing crazy gameplay or mind-blowing cinematics. Even though it isn't my usual genre of video games, I quickly came to appreciate the clever and exciting story that the devs put together. To say it plainly, I was thoroughly impressed with this fantastic story. There's also another reason why the storytelling in this game is very interesting. But in order to talk about that, we must first move on to gameplay. Typically, visual novel games don't have too much in terms of gameplay. It is mainly getting from story trigger to story trigger in order to get more dialogue and interactions out of characters. While technically, this also applies to Beacon Pines, there is actually a bit more than just getting from one conversation to another. Surely, you've encountered games where your decisions matter. Choosing one option over another will lead you down a specific path while blocking off another. Now, imagine if you could progress down the path you chose, but at any point, go back to the instance where you made a decision and choose a different path. This is what Beacon Pines allows you to do. You might be wondering, why would that be a good thing? Wouldn't that just take away from the significance and weight of having to choose? Not quite. And that is because this mechanic isn't about undoing your choices. It is about exploring all possible branched realities. Here's how it works. When faced with a major decision, you must pick an action or behavior via these charms that you gather throughout the game. Depending on what charm you use, you will progress the story down a certain path. If you return to this spot and use a different charm, you might just experience completely different events. At certain decision points, you may need to make choice A in order to obtain a certain charm that will allow you to make choice B at the same decision point. Meaning, you will need to fully explore your available possibilities and even play through multiple parallel story branches in order to progress through the story. Personally, I thought this was a phenomenal way of having the player experience the story and encourage them to truly explore everything. There's one more gameplay related thing I wanted to mention, and that is that Beacon Pines is verified on Steam Deck and it's actually legit. Here's some gameplay of me playing it on my Steam Deck. As you can see, the game runs very well and without any issues. From my testing and experience with it, the game feels perfectly fine in terms of controls and performance, making this a perfectly portable experience. No need to worry about the virtual keyboard or the controller layout being wonky. The game feels just as good as if you were playing it on your PC with a controller. Thus, I am happy to say that for this game, the verified on Steam Deck status is very factual and accurate. So far, this game is doing well, but there are two other aspects that add quite a bit of importance to the overall game: visuals and audio. The first thing I thought about when I saw Beacon Pines' initial announcement was that the art style looks so freaking cute. As you play through the game, you realize how well the setting and the characters are drawn. Even basic things like walking and interacting animations are very clean. I mean, look at this. It is during the instances where conversations happen and you get a good look at the characters that you realize how much attention to details the devs dedicated. The colors too. From area to area, the colors on trees, buildings, bodies of water, all sorts of objects, and the characters themselves all look so vibrant and beautiful. The other thing that is worth mentioning in terms of visuals is how clean the UI is. There are really only two things displayed on screen: a backpack and a tree. The backpack allows you to see current and completed objectives in which charms you have collected thus far. The tree allows you to travel to a decision point for when you are ready to explore a different reality branch. As for interactions, they work very similarly to how they do in The Last of Us. When Luca approaches something he can interact with, a little magnifying lens icon will pop up to tell the player there is something there to investigate. All in all, the visuals in this game are pretty well done and show that you don't need hyper-realistic graphics or an intricate UI to deliver a phenomenal experience. What about the audio, you say? Easy. The audio is great. The music that is used is pretty good. The tracks do a great job of conveying the current mood of the scene and adding to the overall atmosphere being built. There were plenty of times where the music truly made me feel the tension of a confrontation, or the melancholy of an inevitable event, or even the cheerfulness of a celebration. Needless to say, the music definitely adds weight to the story. Other actions in the game and its events have some pretty good sound design. No audio effect ever felt out of place or inaccurate. Sadly, there is only one source of voice acting, from the narrator, but this isn't a huge issue. The characters do at least make some type of unique noise whenever they speak. Overall, the devs did a really good job with how the game looks, sounds, and more importantly, how it feels to the player. Now, the question is, does that same magical feeling carry over from one playthrough to the next? In order to answer that, we must consult with our friend, Replayability. As exciting as the first playthrough of Beacon Pines is, it is a bit of a shame that subsequent playthroughs seem to lose a lot of that magic you experienced the first time around. The main reason being that this game's biggest selling point is its story, and after experiencing it once, the plot twists won't have the same intensity. The gameplay, while relaxing and enjoyable, unfortunately doesn't offer enough on its own to keep players coming back. There also isn't a plethora of content or a huge world that requires hours upon hours after the main story's completion to fully explore. In case you are wondering, this game takes about 6 hours to finish and closer to 10 hours to complete, so it is a bit on the shorter side. There's definitely enough to keep you entertained for a while, but don't expect to spend 40 plus hours on your first casual playthrough. However, there could potentially be a few reasons to replay through the game completely unrelated to experiencing the story. For one, you could be a completionist like myself, meaning you'll want to unlock all of the achievements, and chances are, you might have missed one or two in your initial playthrough. This game does make it quite convenient to hunt down achievements since we can use the story tree to pick a specific story moment to go back to. Another reason to replay the game, one that adds tons of replay value, is speedrunning. Beacon Pines is a fairly straightforward and simple game when it comes to the gameplay. No crazy technical ability would be required to speedrun it. As long as an optimal route is planned, I think this game would be super beginner friendly for anyone who might be interested in speedrunning it or even getting into speedrunning in general. Yet, even considering these possibilities, the replayability is still the weakest aspect of this game. Unfortunately, that is just the nature of the visual novel genre. While replayability might not be this game's strong suit, is it the most problematic aspect? Only way to answer that is by analyzing this game's unplayability. If you are new to the channel, you may be wondering what I mean by unplayability. Unplayability is this negative energy in the universe that causes all sorts of trouble, from minor inconveniences to game-breaking issues to reality-shattering catastrophes IRL. It's like, well, here, why don't I just show you? First off, I need to complain about the opening minutes of the game. First thing we learn is that Lucas' dad is dead. And not 1 minute later, we are told his mom is missing. Damn, devs, who hurt y'all? Freaking oda to the face right at the start. Next up is this field of dandelions. When I first passed by the field, I noticed that the dandelions disappear as you walk by them, scattered to the wind or whatever. Naturally, I felt a compulsive need to completely clear out the field. I thought there might even be an achievement for doing so. Not only is there no achievement, but to my surprise, the freaking dandelions regenerate. And pretty damn quick too. I tried for like 20 minutes to clear out the field just to find out that it is not doable. Another thing I've been meaning to complain about is the lack of voice acting in this game. With such an array of interesting characters, I would have loved being able to associate different characters to different voices and having lines delivered with tone and emotion. But no, instead, the devs made me read so much text. While all of these heinous instances of unplayability are heartbreaking, none are as aggravating as the #1 offender. Without a doubt, the most blatant instance, or instances in this case, of unplayability in the entirety of Beacon Pines goes to these annoying creatures. I'm adding 5 unplayability ticks to account for all of the instances where these dudes show up. Shut up. Shut up. Shut the f up. Thankfully, that is all there is to unplayability in this beautiful game. Why don't we go ahead and wrap up this review with Lit's final evaluation. Normally, at this point in my review, I'd go over each category and assign them a score on a 1 to 5 scale. However, things have changed a bit around here. Rather than the aforementioned method, we will be doing something a bit less numerical, and quite frankly, more useful for those who watch the reviews. More on this in a bit. Let's talk game. As mentioned before, replayability is where this game hurts the most. The first playthrough is truly magical, but sadly there isn't much incentive to do multiple playthroughs. Gameplay, while not the weakest aspect, isn't this game's main selling point. There is one really cool essential mechanic, and the game does run very well on Steam Deck, but the core gameplay is still traversal and conversations. Nonetheless, what Beacon Pines lacks in gameplay and replayability, it definitely makes up for by 100 in great writing, storytelling, and a very cute art style. I can't really do the narrative justice without talking spoilers, but believe me when I tell you that the story in this game is superb. You'll just have to play it and see for yourself how good this experience really is. All things considered, Beacon Pines is an extremely fun, well-written, and surprising adventure that has something for everyone. For me, it showed me that visual novels can be really exciting and that not everything has to be a violent hack and slash with a perfect deflection system. Alright, let's talk final evaluation. Rather than numbers, I instead give you words. Moving forward, I will be ranking games based on whether they were bad enough to be indeed literally unplayable or good enough to be literally playable. And there's some stuff in between too. Given the new evaluation system and everything we've discussed thus far, I give Beacon Pines the lit ranking of playable. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this review, please consider dropping a like on the video and subscribing to the channel. If you really enjoyed it, please feel free to share the video with others and maybe even consider picking up Beacon Pines for yourself. If you'd like to hang out with me and catch some more Unplayable commentary, I do stream on Twitch every week. I'll leave a link to my channel in the video description below. If you're watching this review on September 21st, 2022, you are in luck because at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, I will be live streaming Beacon Pines. You should totally drop by and check out the game for yourself. Other than Twitch, you can also find me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, as well as our lovely Discord server. Links to all of that down in the description below. And that's it. If you have any, let me know your thoughts and comments down below. As always, stay safe, but remember, no game is ever safe.